we gonna call Critter Busters?
Dad's all torn up and Mom's got like a harpoon thing in her neck and they're getting bigger.
They'll eat anything.
Those, man-eating hairballs that you do not believe in.
Critters. They bite.
Hey guys, welcome back to They Bite Podcast, the number one podcast online. And with me today I have Sean.
Oh yeah, that's me.
And our very, very special guest today. He worked on Critters and Critters 2, and he was the special effects artist for these. We have Chris Biggs.
Hello. Yeah, there he is.
So Chris,
yeah.
When it comes to Critters, a lot of people always associate special effects with the Kyoto brothers and the puppets and everything. But to a lot of people, they don't really know that there was a lot more special effects that went into making these movies than just the puppets.
Oh yeah, well, I mean, they did all the critters. I only did one critter actually, which was the changeover. I did all the transformations and the other aliens, and the bits and pieces that the critters left behind. So I was the kind of the mop-up man, I guess.
You actually did a lot more stuff that was on screen, though, in retrospect, now that I think about it.
Well, I mean, the whole opening bit with the bounty hunters when they're out for their first bounty, we literally, I mean, we have a freezer full of alien heads, included with a couple of little Easter eggs in there that you have to really look hard to see.
Okay, so you're speaking of Critters 2 right now, specifically.
Yeah, Critters 2.
Yes,
okay.
okay.
Critters 1 was just the transformation and a reshoot of Zante, who was the head alien, as I always like to call him.
Okay, the big fat ugly thing with the huge head.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're behind him.
I'm behind the one for Critters 2. Critters 1, I think John Nolan was the artist who came in before me, and he had designed it and did it, but he was using a polyfoam prosthetic.
Okay.
So the edges could be seen pretty much.
Okay.
From about, I don't know, in the other theater. So they asked me to come in and reshoot him and make him smooth. So we took the molds from John, and I just did a foam latex. Well, I did a polyfoam one first and scoured it down till about an inch thick, so it was about an inch thinner than it was originally. And then I glued that back on the head and injected foam latex into that head. And then we had a really nice lightweight foam latex prosthetic that didn't shrink to like a third the size, which is what happens when you do foam latex too thick, and then you bake it, it shrinks. And if it's too thick, the thicker it is, the more it shrinks. So you always try to keep it relatively thin, so you got less shrinkage. So, yeah.
Now, I saw a video recently that popped up online where it was a video of you talking about the Hexapod alien creature that you guys made for Critters 2 that only gets seen for like half a second in the movie.
Yeah, that was probably half of our budget and half our time working on it. It was such an involved critter and such there was a lot of, the thing was about 7.5 feet long, and it had to hang from the ceiling upside down, and the head had to swing around, but it had to be up and flat to the ceiling, and then had to swing around and be face first. And we kind of overbuilt it, really. I mean, it was built to be when the original script had the scene, it was a pretty gnarly battle. And unfortunately, the one shot that they use is the one that I hate the most. This is when we use what we call the stunt double. And it's just a thing, it's like I'm standing off screen and I just sort of pitch it at one of the alien guys. I think they were stuntmen at that point. It wasn't even the actors yet. It just sort of bounces off of it. It was horrible. And they said, we're only going to use like 2 frames of that.
Awesome.
So do you still have that prop?
What's that?
Do you still own that prop?
It rotted years ago. I mean, that's the foam latex lasts. You got about 5 to 10 years of life on foam latex, and that's if you keep it in a nitrogen-rich environment and out of view.
Okay.
And,
now, the prop, because you did the transformation scene with Ugg, and his face is melting to the skull, correct?
Right. Yeah, that was the first. That was Critters 1. So.
Right. Yeah, I kind of want to start there and go into 2. I know you did more on 2. But the prop from that went up a few years ago, like the skeleton skull. Were you aware of that? Did you know that still existed?
You know, here's the deal. I had a yard sale at my house about 15 years ago. My wife, you can't keep all this shit lying around here. Get rid of it.
Oh my God.
We decided to do a yard sale. This was after Nightmare 5, so I had the Iron Man suit, and I had Zante, the full body makeup and the big head, and a couple of pulls from the facial piece, and it was like a lot of my props from a lot of my movies were sold, and I'm sure those were in that batch there. It was one of those things where some guy came and said, "Is this stuff all from movies?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Oh," and he left. I said, "Oh, okay, you're weird."
It wasn't me.
Yeah, well, you're not from around here anyway. Within, I'd say 10 minutes, because this was in the days before iPhone. So if you had a cell phone, it was pretty rare,
Yeah.
And within 10 minutes, about 50 people showed up. And I mean, it almost turned into an auction. It was kind of fun.
Interesting. Wow, you think that dude would just like scammed you for it all, but he just went and called a bunch of people?
I think what it was is that he freaked out and he couldn't afford it, even though I had nothing priced. I was just
right.
I just kind of, well, what do you feel like paying for it? It's from a movie, so. And everybody was like, I think the most expensive thing I got was, I think I got $15,000 for the Iron Man suit.
Wow, good for you. Wow.
Yeah, at a yard sale.
At a yard
sale. Yeah, this is like this is like a story that a kid dreams happens. Like, I bet they just have a yard sale.
Yeah.
That's pretty amazing.
So what did it take to go in and make that effect happen in films? I know you did like some reversal footage and stuff for that.
Yeah, what it was is that it was a 3-part shot. There was we had the I just call them the goober aliens because they just kind of looked like a goober. They were like this, like the faceless, shapeless, yellow greenish kind of goobery looking thing. And we had that mold, and then I had Terry come in for a life cast. And we did a full head cast on him, and then we did a clay press from his life cast. And so what I did is the first clay press, I carved it down to the musculature. And so then we made a mold of that. And we'd already made a mold of silicone. We were making silicone molds. I already made a silicone mold of, the pointed up head cast. So now we did a clay press from the silicone mold, and then sculpted it down to the musculature and, some of the skeletal stuff you can see through it. And then we made a mold of that. And it's also at the same time, there was the neck had a registration ring in it so that all the pieces, any piece we made would fit inside the next mold. So that was kind of the idea. Then I carved it down from that down to the skull, and again made a silicone mold. Then we made a fiberglass of the skull and a fiberglass of the musculature. And we made 2 fiberglasses of the skull because we needed one. So we put one inside the goober alien, and it was mostly clear with a thin skin that was the color of the outer skin, that kind of yellowish greenish kind of tone. And then the inside was completely water clear because I wanted the skull to look all distorted and weird, and as it melted, it kind of refined itself down to a human skull shape. I don't know if that got, that feeling was what it, actually looked like, but that was what I was shooting for. And then the next scene is you see the skull and the musculature growing up on it. Well, what that was the skull with the gelatin muscles on it. and we just melted the muscles off. And then we had the musculature head with the human skin on it, and we just sort of melted the human skin off. And then we had a couple of shots where some hair was starting, we put a little bit of hair on it and then pulled it away a little bit, but I think that got cut because it looked wanky. And then he just shows up with, the fabulous big do. So,
that's awesome, man.
Those 3 parts, we had 2 weeks to do that and the redo of Zante.
Wow. That's not very much time to do that at all. That seems like that would take like a month to build all that stuff. And
yeah, well, if you've been working 8-hour days, 5-day weeks, it would have taken a month. So
wow.
Now, I'm not an expert.
I was pulling down between 18 and 20-hour days.
That really is probably one of the most impressive special effects moments in the first movie too. So it really is an honor to talk to you, man, and hear the process of that. That's amazing.
Yeah, I've never seen a person's body melt down in real life, but I feel like if it did, that's what it would look like.
Well, I got inspiration from Chris Wallace when he did the heads for Indiana Jones.
I was going to say too, but I think you did it. I was just going to say you did it better than Indiana Jones. So. Well,
what they did was they wanted one head. They wanted it all one take, and mine was a transformation. It wasn't somebody decomposing in front of you, and theirs was wax. They didn't use gelatin. They used wax, and so that was the difference. And I used the gelatin because I was becoming the king of gelatin at that point. I mean, every time I did a movie or a show, most of it was done in gelatin because silicones at that time were so unreliable, and urethanes were so difficult to paint. I mean, you can get some good clear urethane going, but you couldn't do anything with it. It was just, there you go. It's nice and it's got some subsurface scattering, but that's all you can do with it. The gelatin was great because I could put a little flocking in with it and get some flesh tones, get some undercurrents of reds and blues, flecked all through it. And then I can go over it with regular makeup.
Now, how did you get into the passion of wanting to do this?
The gelatin stuff?
No. Just special effects in general. How did you get into the trade?
Well, I was in college and I saw Star Wars, and I knew nothing about the movie. I walked into it cold. A friend of mine said, "Hey, I got movie tickets for a midnight screening tonight. It opens tonight. We're going to the Chinese." So I got to see Star Wars opening night at the Chinese theater, which which was like pretty freaking awesome. And but I was a psych major actually in college when that happened. I had been an artist. I'd been in theater. I always enjoyed theater. My sister is an opera singer, and so because of that, my mother was a cosmetologist, and so I kind of always was like helping, and so I would help do makeup because my mom was in charge of the makeup department since she was the licensed cosmetologist in the group, and then we bought, Corson's stage makeup, and I, taught myself that. And then I started looking at movies and like Planet of the Apes and decided, I want to do one of those on myself. So in high school, I did a life cast of myself, and nobody told me about Vaseline on your eyelashes and eyebrows before you stick your face full of alginate, or actually plaster of Paris is what I used because I didn't know what alginate was back then. And I just literally mixed a bowl of plaster of Paris, stuck my face in it, and figured, oh well, it'll come off.
No.
Yeah.
Well, that is awesome, man.
That's a big negatory. I had no eyebrows for about a year.
So, moving on to Critters 2, because you said you had a lot more to do with Critters 2.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we had, all the transformations between, going back and forth between the Playmate and, oh, God, what was his name? The kid.
Eddie Deason.
Eddie Deason, yeah. And then we had, of course, when Eddie gets, the Playmate gets killed, Roxanne. I can't remember the characters' names. I'm sorry, I only remember the actors' names, so you have to excuse me. Roxanne played the female, the Playmate bounty.
Lee.
Yeah, so we had those effects, and then when she gets killed, he loses it. And this was an experiment I wanted to try. I wanted to actually try this with the first critters, but we didn't have time to even think about it. And they also didn't want to do because it took us like most of the day to do the gelatin gags. We literally had all three of them rigged up, like one head after another, and it was pretty much we were in there for 20 hours melting gelatin on those three. Yeah. So, you don't want, you can't. We had like these giant heaters blowing on it from the side. It just took a while to melt,
I had read that when you all filmed Critters 2, it was like the coldest days in like 100 years in that area.
Oh, Los Angeles, yeah. I mean, it was like it snowed up there more than it didn't, and the production crew would have to come through and like remove the snow and melt it out of view of the next shot.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't think I ever heard that. Did you?
Oh, it was so freaking cold. I mean, at least in the days I was on set. I mean, I was only on set for probably about a third of the time. Maybe.
There are moments to see like kind of steam coming out of people's mouths. About it.
Oh yeah. It was listed as the coldest winter in Los Angeles history.
That's amazing.
100 years, something like that. And we were shooting on top of a hill in Santa Clarita in the dead of winter. And it's like and outside mostly. It was like so, and it was always nights. It was always night shoots. So I think we had one day shoot, and that was for pickups, and that was in a sound stage, and I think that was in Santa Clarita too. Can't remember which stage we used.
I'm almost in Canada, so it probably would have still seemed warm to me.
But yeah, but I worked on Star Trek, and we did a scene on a glacier, and I had to glue a Klingon into a mask, and pretty much, yeah, you had to wear electric like clothing, otherwise, like you had to wear a thing over your face, otherwise you'd freeze your lungs if you inhaled too deeply, So that was probably the coldest place I've ever experienced in my life. So yeah.
So you said that you had to do one of the Critters effects for part 2, the transformation part. Is that where the Critter transforms into the bounty hunter?
We had Ugg as a critter.
That's a prop that went up recently as well too. Someone restored it.
Oh,
yes,
wow.
Someone actually restored it. It looks amazing.
Well, it was one of the Stretcho one was a simple one because it was just, it was basically this. At the time, there was a company called International Fur, and they had done all the stuff for the Kyotos, and so I had them do it, but I had them punch it into spandex. They hadn't done that yet. So there was a lot of experimentation going on because they kept sending me these things with this white spandex, and I'm like, no, it's got to be, So we painted up, we took like fabric dyes, sent about 25 yards of this stuff, and then spattered dye all over it, so it was all splotchy and splattery and looked like flesh. And we sent that to them, and then they punched the hair into that with their machines. So,
yeah, I never knew that. That's really, really creative.
That is awesome.
Well, we sent them. They kept sending us samples, and it's like, great. Can you put this on something that looks like skin? And they're like, what do you mean? So because they had their one weave, which was like it was just hair kind of woven together, so it stretched a little bit, and you could put it on rubber things, and it looked great. It was like instant hair mats. It was amazing stuff. But they've never done anything where they had to stretch. We're talking about stretching something from 3 feet tall to 6 feet tall. We're doubling its size. And those hair mats would not have lasted. They just would have torn. So, but, and the rest of it's just a big pneumatic ram inside there. We had, the valve turned way down so we could adjust the speed, have it go up slowly.
That's amazing. I have to...
Then the other half of it was actually a gag that I stole from Greg Canham from one of the Howling movies that he had done, where you see this transformation happening, and the guy's like, oh, he's like human, and then as he turns, you see he's all wolfy. And it was just a half and half makeup. And so we did a head that was mostly critter on one side, kind of weird stretched into human forms, with lots of hair, and then the hair thins out, and then we kind of just blended it off to the Ugg head, and then did a camera dolly around him as it was happening, and then we had some lighting effects going on too. But the one gag that I really liked, we had this one head was when he loses it, and we literally cut a video or film at that point. We filmed every single one of the heads that was in the freezer.
Yeah.
And lined it up to his bug head, and then we projected on that.
Okay, I was gonna say it kind of looked like a screen was wrapped around his head, and there was like a video playing on it.
Is
Well,
this
this
the first
exactly
movie we're talking?
It wasn't a video screen. It was a 35 millimeter projector projecting picture on him.
Okay.
And then we put the camera on a dolly that was just below the projector. Kind of looked up at him a little bit. You know, the projector was kind of high and pointing down, and the camera was just below it a little bit. But it was almost the same height as the projector because we wanted to get enough of a light reflecting perfectly. And so that was, you know.
Is this the first transformation scene in the first movie, or are we talking about like Ug's breakdown after Lee dies?
This is after the playmate dies. This is when this.
Okay, yeah, okay. I just wanted to make sure. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
Did you
have
have
all these props are going on sale on what is it, eBay? I'm guessing. So, okay.
Well, now I'm realizing all these props that are going up are more from you than the Kyoto brothers, because the worm that attacks Charlie, like the centipede thing in the game, that went up.
Oh, called it the Hexapod. I don't know why, because it has 6 legs. It's sort of stuck. So yeah.
Yeah, it has like the gun hole blast in it, so it's the one that. Yeah. I don't know if you made 2 or not, but it has a gun hole blast in it.
We made 3 of them. We had the big mechanical one, which hung in the shop for years, and you know, it entertained guests when they came by because I had all the thing rigged, so I could just, you know, a couple of yanks of a couple of pulleys, and it would, you know, swing down and open its mouth.
That's awesome.
And then we had what I called the stunt version, which was the big foam latex, big rubber thing just on him, you know, on top of him. And then we had a third one, which is the one that gets the hole blasted in it. That was the pyro version. We had to, you know, gouge out the hole and then present the skin so it was in perfect condition. And then we loaded up squibs with like enough. Actually, we didn't use Methacell on this one. We used like a lot of foam bits and super slime, and made sort of a greenish yellowy. We had like one batch that was sort of a kind of a chartreuse green, and then one that was sort of a pus yellow color, and we kind of just sort of put them in different condoms and had I guess there was some Carol blood type of a thing, but it was sort of a yellowy reddish color, and then we had chunks in that, and then that all got blown and into this nice big, and it was amazing when you saw it standing there, but I guess the camera didn't catch the angle right, and it looked like a big bubble. Yeah. So.
Now, yeah, it's definitely the third one that you mentioned with the whole end that went up on the prop, but you put so much work into these things.
Yeah.
Do you ever like hate the edit when you see the movie back? You're like, geez, I put so much work into that, and it's a millisecond.
Oh yeah, I get. Yeah, I mean, I kind of like. I worked on a film called Gone in 60 Seconds. We spent 4.5 months on that film, and when we were all done, our Hoyt Yateman, who was the boss, came in and said, "Well, guys," he says, "we just saw the final cut." He says, "We're going to go to a screening of it next week. Our stuff consists of exactly 90 seconds of the movie."
Wow.
Oh man, it's like heartbreaking.
You know, I did all this stuff with this like tanks and stuff like that, and
it just doesn't exist now. Huh?
Yeah, and it's like, I mean, it's like okay, 5 frames.
Wow, it's unbelievable.
Yeah.
So did you have
on there? It's horrible. Like it's like it's not even the good stuff. You know, it's like these are like the stuff that was sent out for you know, homemade stuff or stuff that was sent out for like publicity tours and stuff like the egg. So anyway, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, did you have any input on working the look of the bounty hunter's face, like the green glowing face and stuff, or was that someone else?
Well, the roto was done by the visual effects team.
Okay.
You know, the glow. The digital wasn't a thing yet then. And it's funny. a good funny story for you here. The night we were shooting the transformation, the where he loses it, we're doing the projection and all that stuff on it. We had a second or third assistant director. I can't remember what number he was. It was his first film. I think it was his first time ever dealing with film. And on the call sheet, I was on my, for me to bring was the bounty hunter head and the rotoscope. And he put that on the call sheet. And 3 times the day before, he kept reminding me that I had to bring this in tomorrow. This is definitely, we're definitely shooting this tomorrow. You have to bring this in tomorrow. Okay. And he said, and don't forget the rotoscope. I'm like, okay. So I had a friend of mine who at the time had a beautiful printer, and I had him print up this Acme ink rotoscope label, and it was real professional. We stuck it on a very large mayonnaise jar. And then I proceed to fill it with Siloom. Siloom is that stuff that's in the green sticks.
Okay, yeah, like the stuff you take like camping.
Yeah. Well, okay. You can buy the 2 components. Trias Sciences used to sell them, and we always used to have it for just just screwing around with mostly. You should put them in squirt guns and squirt people in the dark. So I filled a jar of that stuff up with the base, and then I had the activator in another little cup. And so, like 5 minutes before I knew he was coming, I took the lid off, added the activator, shook it up, and it was this big glowing jar of green shit. And I handed it to him. Here's the rotoscope. Have no idea what the fuck you want to use it for, but there you go.
Yeah, it's awesome.
And, he held that jar all night, waiting for somebody to call for it.
It baffles me, man. Like, because we've had a few actors and actresses on the podcast now, and some literally have no memories of it, and they're not afraid to admit it. And you can go into such detail about it. Like, how many times have you watched these movies back?
Myself personally, I saw it. Okay, I saw it in the theater the night we had the premiere, the cast and crew premiere. Then I was given a VHS copy of it by a friend, which I think I watched a couple of times. And then I got a DVD of it from New Line when they released the Blu-ray, which is kind of nice of them. Let's see, not the Blu-ray, it was the DVD. The Blu-ray's not just yet. And then about 3 years ago, Charlie Chiodo called me up and said, "Hey, we're doing a screening of Critters 2. Come on down." And so it was Mick Garris and the Chiodos and myself and
cool.
It was a bunch of us, and it was just at this theater. It was really impromptu, and they just sort of brought us all up. We sat on the edge of the stage and answered questions, and yada yada. So it was fun. That was the last time I saw it.
Well, you've seen it more than most people involved in it, I want to say. Then when you say Chris, you've seen it more times than most people who were involved with it have seen it then. So that's cool to hear.
I just, it is one of my favorite films I've worked on. I gotta say, it really is.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, it's just so silly. It's just one of the silliest movies ever.
It really is. It absolutely is. You're talking to 2 people now who've been obsessed with it for 30 years. And we know it's silly.
Oh yeah, I ran into Mick recently because they're doing interviews for they're coming out with a Blu-ray set of all of the movies with interviews of all the people who worked on it.
You hear that, Chris?
Yeah.
You hear that?
I'm gonna have to cut this part out though because I talked to Scream Factory and they told me that they're not quite ready to announce that yet. So
okay.
So I'm gonna cut this part out.
Yeah, screw that. Tell us. No.
Oh, yeah. Wait till they're happy with it. They don't. That way, the legal the legal rim of hell doesn't come falling in upon you. So.
I had heard from somebody though that Warner Brothers and Scream Factory aren't too interested in doing a lot of bonus features and stuff for it though. that they're just going to release the Blu-ray, do some commentaries, and that's going to be it pretty much. Do you know any more detail about it than that?
Well, I know that I got interviewed in front of a green screen. I know that Mick Garris got interviewed in front of a green screen because he was the one who came in before me. Okay. And I know the Kyotos were interviewed because they were calling me up saying, "Hey, did you get called for this?" I said, "Yeah, okay." You know, they just want to make sure because I don't do makeup anymore, so it's like I'm out of the circle, you know. And so they sometimes stuff happens and I find out about it, like, you know, when it comes out. And I'm like, "Oh, that'd have been nice," you know. But New Line, actually, all the New Line folks have always been really great about making sure that I was included in anything. I mean, we did the Never Sleep Again, and I mean, New Line was kind of instrumental in getting everybody together on that, even though it wasn't in production.
Yeah, like a 8-hour documentary. I mean, there's room on there for special effects guys.
So, but I'm getting to work on some fun stuff again. I'm actually right now I'm working on Warner Brothers Halloween haunt thing called Horror Made Here, and I'm in charge of the media and the video projections. And last year we did it, and I had all sorts of fun doing Freddy stuff, you know, and the Gremlin stuff, and so.
Ooh, really?
Yeah. It was all video projection, but it, you know, it looked like this one house was infested with gremlins running around in every window, you know.
Is that just a live event for like Halloween?
It's an event, starts first week of October and runs until Halloween. I think it will not be on Halloween this year because Halloween's on a Wednesday, and it's hard enough to keep the productions out of the buildings during the week, you know, so let alone the weekends.
Yeah, Sean, we may have to fly up there and check that out.
Yeah, really, dude. That sounds sweet.
Yeah, let me know. I can try to see if I can get you some passes or something, you know.
Oh.
Nah, man. Cool.
Awesome. Yeah, we'll let you know if we're able to do it.
If you'd want to pass, it's like $80 to get in. So but it's cool because it's not the Halloween thing they do at Universal. It's like there's so many people there that it's like all you do is stand in line. You know, it's like you're in line for 45 minutes to an hour to go through a maze that's about 5 minutes long.
Yeah.
You know, and then you're in line for 45 minutes to an hour to get in another maze that's, you know, 5 to 10 minutes long. And it's just kind of like, this is kind of cool because they only allow a number of people in so that it's not like super crowded. The most you're waiting in line is maybe 30 minutes. And that was we did this the Conjuring series. Okay. We did a house of that. And I did a gag that turned out I was really happy with it because it was the what you call the send away in the terms of Halloween things. It's the last gag and it's supposed to scare everybody out of the fucking room.
Okay.
So have you ever seen the Conjuring films?
I've seen the first.
Yeah, I've seen them.
Two. There's a scene. It actually ties into the new movie that's coming out called The Nun, and there was this painting of a nun on a wall, and then you see her shadow walk across the wall, get behind the painting, and all of a sudden these fingers come out from behind the painting, and then burst out forward and chases the woman around. Well, we did that live, and the director who directed the film was there. We had a preview for all of them. And he came up to me and he's like, "Dude," he says, "we spent like months figuring that one out." And he says, "You guys did it live."
Yeah, that's really cool because that was one of the scariest and coolest parts of the movie too.
Yeah. That's what we try to do is find all the really gnarly, scary bits and put them together into one big chunk. So we're doing the same thing again this year, except they liked The Conjuring so much they said, "Great, make it twice as long." Okay.
Oh, that's awesome, man.
You need to talk to them and tell them that you need to do a Critters one.
Absolutely. Nothing scares kids more than Critters.
They own Gremlins, and we already did Gremlins, and so they're like, "Ooh, good, we'll do more Gremlins." So yeah, we got that. We've got.
Well, everyone likes them.
Free Blood. We're also doing Arkham Asylum. Doing the game, the Batman Arkham Asylum game version, and the Joker is in charge of the asylum. It was fun. That was the last time I saw it.
Well, you've seen it more than most people involved in it, I want to say, then. When you say, Chris?
Oh,
you've
yeah.
seen it more. times than most people who are involved with it have seen it done. So that's cool to hear.
I just, you know,
So that's cool to hear.
I just, you know, I mean, it is one of my favorite films I've worked on. I gotta say, it really is.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, it's just so silly. It's just one of the silliest movies ever.
It really is. It absolutely is.
You know,
you're talking to two people now who've been obsessed with it for 30 years. You know, and we know it's silly.
When it comes out, I'm like, oh, that'd have been nice. You know. But
well,
New Line,
awesome.
actually, all the New Line folks have always been really great about making sure that I was included in anything. I mean, we did the Never Sleep Again, and I mean, New Line was kind of instrumental in getting everybody together on that, even though it wasn't in production.
Yeah, like a 8-hour documentary. I mean, there's room on there for special effects guys.
So, but I'm getting to work on some fun stuff again. I'm actually right now I'm working on Warner Brothers Halloween haunt thing called Horror Made Here, and I'm in charge of the media and the video projections. And last year we did it, and I had all sorts of fun doing Freddy stuff, you know, and the Gremlin stuff, and so.
Ooh, really?
Yeah. It was all video projection, but it, you know, it looked like this one house was infested with gremlins running around in every window, you know.
Is that just a live event for like Halloween?
It's an event, starts first week of October, and runs until Halloween. I think it will not be on Halloween this year because Halloween's on a Wednesday, and it's hard enough to keep the productions out of the buildings during the week, you know, so let alone the weekends.
Yeah, Sean, we may have to fly up there and check that out.
Yeah, really, dude. That sounds sweet.
Yeah, let me know. I can try to see if I can get you some passes or something, you know.
Oh.
Nah, man. Cool.
Awesome. Yeah, we'll let you know if we're able to do it.
If you want to pass, it's like $80 to get in. So it's cool because it's not the Halloween thing they do at Universal. It's like there's so many people there that it's like all you do is stand in line. You know, it's like you're in line for 45 minutes to an hour to go through a maze that's about 5 minutes long.
Yeah.
You know, and then you're in line for 45 minutes to an hour to get in another maze that's, you know, 5 to 10 minutes long. And it's just kind of like, this is kind of cool because they only allow a number of people in so that it's not like super crowded. The most you're waiting in line is maybe 30 minutes. And that was the we did this the Conjuring series.
Okay.
We did a house of that. And I did a gag that turned out I was really happy with it because it was the what you call the send away in the terms of Halloween things. It's the last gag and it's supposed to scare everybody out of the fucking room.
Okay.
So have you ever seen the Conjuring films?
I've seen the first.
Yeah,
Okay,
I've seen them.
Two, there's a scene. It actually ties into the new movie that's coming out called The Nun, and there was this painting of a nun on a wall, and then you see her shadow walk across the wall, get behind the painting, and all of a sudden these fingers come out from behind the painting and then burst out forward and chases the woman around. Well, we did that live, and the director who had directed the film was there. We had a preview for all of them. And he came up to me and he's like, dude, he says, we spent like months figuring that one out. And he says, you guys did it live.
Yeah, that's really cool because that was one of the scariest and coolest parts of the movie too.
Yeah. That's what we try to do is find all the really gnarly, scary bits and put them together into one big chunk. So we're doing the same thing again this year, except they liked The Conjuring so much. They said, great, make it twice as long. Okay.
Oh, that's awesome, man.
You need to talk to them and tell them that you need to do a Critters one.
Absolutely. Nothing scares kids more than Critters.
Don't forget, they own Gremlins, and we already did Gremlins, and so they're like, "Ooh, good, we'll do more Gremlins." So yeah, we got that. We've got.
Well, everyone likes them.
Free Blood. We're also doing Arkham Asylum. Doing the game, the Batman Arkham Asylum game version. And the Joker is in charge of the asylum. You know, the lunatics have taken over the asylum, so you walk in. The first thing that happens is you get committed and sent down by the Joker, and then the rest of it's like a lot of monsters and costumes and makeups and things like that. So we had Freddy's walking around last year. It was great because I had all my Freddy shit, and the guy who was in charge of it used my patterns to make some new gloves and things. So, yeah.
And this feels like the best time ever.
Yeah, really.
It is fun. It is actually kind of fun, and they have a full bar, which.
So it is the best time ever then.
Hey, what props do you? Yeah, I mean, you've had to have held on to something, right?
Yeah, up until I moved this last time. All I got left is what I call my candy dish. It's a head that I made for a movie called it's a dry lake bed north of here. I'm sorry, I can't remember the name of it, but the name of the movie is The Dry Lake Bed, which is something dry lake. It's El Mirage Dry Lake Bed. And it's a big dry lake up here, and a lot of people go camping because there's like a nice forest all the way around it. This was like low budget beyond low budget.
Okay, so it's not even like a high movie in your career.
Well, this was straight to video. This one was straight to VHS. I don't think they even shot it on film, honestly.
Okay.
We had the one scene you see is it's the standard, shadowed psycho. You don't know who he is, why he's doing this, but there's these like these 5 kids that have gone camping, and they are one by one getting picked off by this guy, and it turns out it's just a pissed off redneck, basically. So
the best kind of horror film, pissed off rednecks.
Yeah. But one of the gags which I really dug was we had this guy buried in the mud, and he was actually buried in the mud because they didn't have the budget to do anything other than that. We dug a hole, stuck him in the hole, buried him up to his chin in the mud, and then the bad guy, you see him, he's screaming and leave me, why are you there? You just see him, all you hear is the ping of the hand grenade handle popping off, and you see a hand grenade land in front of his face, and then they cut away, and then you find back to the students, and you hear this, the friends, and you hear this through the forest of the explosion, but it's really kind of mellow because it's so far away. So you forget about him. You figure, oh well, he's dead, and so cut to about I don't know, about a third of the movie, and they're wandering around, and this girl trips and falls and lands face first into his top of his head, or what's left of it.
Yeah.
And, so it was like everything kind of from the lower jaw up was missing, and the lower, and it's like so the brain was all just, it was like a big, hollowed out space. We filled it with fake blood and calves' brains, and it was great because the actress was a vegan, and she stands up, and I told the director, keep rolling, and she stands up and says, oh God, what's on me? And some guy says, it's his brains, and that's actually dubbed in, because then she starts vomiting.
No way.
What it was, she's, oh my God, what's on me? I said, it's calves' brains. And she started, and then they cut me out and put the actor's voice in. So.
Nice. That's awesome.
So yeah, but that was a real reaction. She actually retched and vomited right there on camera.
Oh man! So you kept the jaw tight prop thingy?
Well, I kept it because it was like shoulders up, because it just had to be buried in the mud up to the chin, And so I just kept it. It was just a latex polyfoam head that I just kind of carved up and dressed and put a skull, had a plastic skull, mold from one of the. You always need to have molds of bones and skulls and things like that. So we just cast one up in a flexible material and stuck it down in there so it looked like it was inside the head, and dressed it with a lot of cotton and latex and nernies and goober and all sorts of grungy stuff, and teeth and a tongue. And so for years when I was working at visual effects houses, I'd bring that every Halloween and put a nice shirt on, usually Hawaiian or something like that, and then fill the cavity with gummy worms. And then tell everybody, hey, help yourself. So they wouldn't touch one until I'd eat one. But it was all, the inside of it was all done up with gelatin. Again, I love gelatin. It's great stuff because you can make it look like, like horrible spatter, thick blood, and it's there for every take. It doesn't run, it doesn't change. You know.
Do you refuse to eat it?
I didn't refuse to eat it. I mean, they would. You know, the people I was working with were like, ew, and that's why I'd eat a gummy worm out of it, and they're like, oh, okay.
Now, do you use Knox gelatin? That's probably a basic question, but is that like flavorless? Is that what you would go for? Or?
That's basically what it is, but I buy it when I was getting it in like 10-pound tubs. You know.
Okay, yeah, I figured. Yeah.
I was getting. I cut a deal with Farmer John because I was ordering it through scientific companies.
Okay.
And I was getting this gelatin, and it was like getting up to be about, it was costing me about $20, like for like a half a pound. It was really getting expensive, and so I went to right down here in South Central LA is a Farmer John butcher place, and they also manufacture gelatin there. So I went there, and I was just buying it there in bulk in 50-gallon drums.
That's hilarious.
Saving, for what I'd buy a 50-gallon drum for, it would cost me to buy, like 10 pounds of it at the scientific markets. It's the same shit. Just actually, it was better than that because the stuff I was getting was a higher bloom rate. So the
higher what rate?
Higher bloom rate. Chemistry. Ooh. The bloom rate is how if you take the gelatin and you add it to, say, 3 cups of water, how firm will it be?
Okay, I know exactly what you're saying.
The higher the bloom rate, the firmer it is.
Yeah. That's awesome. Talking so much about gelatin, that's fantastic.
Well, I mean, let's face it. I mean, all the prosthetics that I did in Nightmare 5, everything that was on the bicycle guy, the motorcycle guy, those were all gelatin pieces.
I didn't know that because I just watched that recently, and you couldn't even tell that. That's really cool.
Yeah, the idea is what I loved about gelatin is what everybody loves about silicone, is that the light interacts with it naturally. Foam latex is dead, flat, bleh. It's white, or pink or whatever color you tinted it. And then you put makeup on it, and then you spend 6 hours making it look alive, Now, gelatin is great because it starts off kind of firm and stiff, and you glue it on and you blend it off with, hot water,
Right.
And then so you just literally hit a brush on that edge, and it just melts right into their skin. So you've already got something that looks perfectly blended, looks like flesh. So you're going in and just touching it up and adding a little some shadow here, or maybe some stuff there. And then when the light hits it, it films like skin. It really looks and feels like skin. I'll tell you a funny story. It has nothing to do with any of this later, but this is supposed to be about critters. So
it's all good, man.
Yeah. Anyway, but, it's a great material. I know a few people still use it, but everybody's pretty much switched to silicone because it gives you the same effect that the gelatin did without having to worry about, is it too hot? That was the only trouble, was that it could melt if it got too hot. So it always shot in very air-conditioned situations. The other cool thing is that once it's on the skin, it warms up a little bit, and it becomes very flexible and very, very pliable. So it's, foam latex, on the other hand, if you don't run it really soft, I mean, it's like, upholstery rubber, it's pretty tough stuff.
No, okay. Do you have a favorite scene or special effect you've ever done? Like when you like introduce yourself to people and just ask what you did, or do. Do you have like a scene that you always go to reference?
Well, I'd say my go-to for like my favorite stuff was a really bad movie called The Unnameable. And it's wonderful in its badness.
Yeah, I've seen it. That naked creature thing or whatever it is called is it's pretty creepy.
Yeah, we called her Kit.
Kit.
Yeah. Her name was Catherine, so she got stuck with Kit. So yeah. because it was Cat, and we had another actress named Cat, so she was Kitten. So it was went from Cat to Kitten to Kit. So so. What's
the scene in that? Because I'm not familiar with the movie.
Oh, she's a human being that's been possessed by a demon, and she's 200 years old, and this demon's been keeping her alive, and so she's kind of hot and sexy at the same time. You like want to run away. So, but the actress who portrayed her, I mean, she was covered from pretty much head to toe in rubber. So.
I have to watch that. So what other scenes and careers too would you have been involved in? I'm trying to go through here. Let's see. You worked on one scene with the critters. You had nothing to do. You had nothing to do with the critter ball, obviously, and whatnot. It was.
I was involved with a couple of things in the Krite ball.
Were you?
Yeah, but not the Krites themselves. Actually, what I was involved with was the aftermath. We had one scene where you see the ball. It's this guy's running, and it rolls over him, and all that's left is like this bloody skeleton.
Oh, you did that?
Yeah, I did that. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's awesome. It was like the first scene anyone ever told me about. Like to tell me to watch this movie, I was probably like 6, so it's so iconic for me, They're like, oh, there's this big monster butt rolls over this guy. There's just a skeleton left, So yeah, that's amazing.
We were looking the way Steve and Charlie had always described the critters is that they're piranha out of water.
Yes, yes.
So that's what we kind of made it look like, was a piranha victim. Actually, I used a couple photographs of some piranha victims as reference.
What the hell did you put those back then?
And everybody, my favorite thing though is everybody comments on the animation of the puppets. Like,
yeah.
Oh my God, what did you use for the animation on it? I pushed the foot. The whole thing was just a loose rope, and skeleton was just held together, and the joints were kind of roped and with a little bit of, but they were loose so that you could position it and it would just sort of stay in place. And during one of the takes, I kicked the foot accidentally. And Mick was like, do that again. And so I stood there, and all I did is I just sort of took the foot and kind of shook it a little bit right after the ball kind of passed over it. Because it was actually not even on it. It was sort of sitting in front of the camera, and then they rolled the ball off, and then I just sort of shook the foot a little bit, which I was just out of frame.
Oh, so that's why it's like shaking?
Yeah. Yeah. That was amazing. Like, I always noticed it was shaking a little bit. I never thought I'd hear the story.
Like the nerves were still like the muscles had just been ripped off, and it was just like kind of like settling from.
Yeah, sure, whatever.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Yeah. That's the cool thing about shooting live and shooting analog. Is that magical things can happen from fuck ups, whereas digital, it ain't gonna ever happen. I mean, I work digitally now. I have to, but it's just you lose some of that spontaneity, some of that magic shit that happens, However, now the way they're starting to make digital stuff, things like that could start happening again, because you can actually like be moving puppets live while you're filming now. Some of this technology. I know, like when they're doing the Avatar stuff, they're Jim Cameron's like looking at an iPad and watching the scene with all of the characters in full CG walking in the sets that are full, and everybody's on a blue screen stage wearing, capture suits. So
yeah, they're definitely that is impressive as hell.
Yeah, so it's starting to get that way now, where you're going to start seeing a lot more things that were like, oh, this just sort of happened and we kept it, so. Yeah.
Well, modern effects have almost caught a bad rap, because for practically a decade it just looked like a PlayStation game, and just everyone was like, God, this is just ruining the movie. Like, this movie would be good if it just didn't have these effects. So
yeah. Well, in the same vein, though, I mean, like let's face it, Jurassic Park wouldn't have worked if it wasn't for CG dinosaurs and physical dinosaurs. You got both.
Yeah, it's a fantastic point. I just rewatched it recently, and you're right.
You know, I mean, that's the point. It's not, oh, it's all CG. No, you do some stuff that is real, and then you let it do it. I mean, it's like we did Mighty Joe Young. We had Rick Baker's suit, and then it was funny because when we did our gorilla, it was before we got any footage back of Rick's stuff. We're creating Mighty Joe to animate pretty much like a real gorilla. You know,
right.
You know, we were going to the zoo and we were videotaping gorilla footage, and then you see Rick's footage, and it's like, oh, he's very restrained. It's like, yeah, because it's a guy in a suit. You know?
Right.
You know, I mean, so we had to kind of we had to like kind of pull it back a whole bunch. And we also had things where we were doing stuff that the suit couldn't do. That was probably our main task, was on top of comping, you know, the large Joe into the scenes. A lot of what we did was in the CG version was to put it in situations where the real, you know, the guy in the suit couldn't do that. So like when he crawled the Ferris wheel, or my favorite shot is the Chinese theater he's crawling up, because I did all the props and the dust and the electrical, you know, frying and all that. So I was doing the special effects of the animation, all that stuff, and so I'm really proud of that shot. So
that's amazing. I have not seen that one since I was a kid. Now I want to go back to it.
Well, if you go to my website, it's in my cut with my reel, so you know, it's in there. So
just the scene itself, okay.
Yeah. There's also, if you're interested, if you go to my website, there's a whole ton of pictures of Unnameable, like, and then there's also some behind the scenes stuff with Cynthia. Hang on, let me go there and look.
So what's the website? Is it chrisbiggs.com?
No, it's rcb-vfx.com.
All right, there you go, guys. So if you're listening to this, you can go to that website and check out all this behind-the-scenes stuff.
There's anyway, if you go there, you go to galleries, and then there's some stuff like things I did for the Haunted Mansion at Disneyland and Pirate's Lair at Disneyland, and then other attractions and other parks. And then there's Hello Hello, which is a silly little video I did for a thing. But then there's makeup effects process and other than human, and that includes a lot of shots of makeups like Zante and things like that. There's the president of the Klingons, David Warner. It's funny, I worked with David Warner on the Unnameable too, and then when I came in and did the makeup for Star Trek 6, he's like, weren't we doing a movie about a year ago? I was like, yeah. Okay, I'm not crazy. He's a really cool guy. So that's some of my weird stuff in. Oh, even Destruction, I forgot all about that film. For a reason.
Well, I have a question for you here. Usually, whenever we have a special guest on, we ask them to do a special intro for the start of our show, and they just say their name, what they did on the movie, and then like welcome to They Bite podcast, the greatest podcast ever, or however you want to do it. Feel free if you want to do that.
What's the name of the podcast?
They Bite.
They Bite?
Yep.
Okay.
And you can do it however you want to.
Okay.
Action.
Hey, this is Christopher Biggs, and you're listening to They Bite.
There you go. All right.
I'm a creative guy, so you know.
Yeah, we had Mick Strawn on a few months ago, and he was the town coordinator on Critters 2. He built like the sets and everything. And he went in, when I asked him to do this, he went in and like acted like he was the town mayor of Grover's Bend and did this whole like full minute intro for us. I was like, holy crap.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm kind of boring that way. So
oh no, that was perfect. That's how I would have done it actually. I'm the same way.
We were disappointed in his actually. No.
So, is there any other like stories or anything from Critters or Critters 2 that you haven't told about? Anything on like interviews or anything?
Well, there's the one thing which was the crew gift. most crews, when you're on a show, you get a hat or you get a jacket or a t-shirt.
Was it socks?
The thermal warm socks.
Yes, we know too much. I just wanted to impress you.
The greatest crew gift I'd ever received, because it was so freaking cold that your feet were all, I mean, and so you had these warm, fuzzy socks. It was like, every night I wore my socks.
Do you still have them?
I think I do, somewhere.
Leanne Curtis does. We've talked to her about them. It's funny. It's funny.
I still want a pair. I wish somebody would give me a pair. I want a pair.
I will give you $200 for those socks. I will give you $200 for one of the socks. I'll give it for the sock.
Hey, I like them. So I still wear them every so often when it's really cold.
Do you really? That's fucking awesome, dude.
I've got T-shirts from the first Pirates of the Caribbean movie, and people are like, why don't you wear it all the time? Because it'll wear out.
Yeah, you should one day go out with every article of clothing from a different movie.
I've got 2 jackets from Nightmare on Elm Street. It was funny because I got the first one for $4, and it was and they didn't understand when I asked for the name. They always put your name on the jackets, and it didn't say Nightmare 4. It just said Nightmare on Elm Street. And because it was what they do is they use the same jacket for every show. And then they just stick your name on it. So when they asked for my name, I said Chris FX Makeup. And so they put Chris FX Makeup. It was CHRIS FX, and then under that was the word makeup.
Wow.
So you've kept all those things as far as
I got I did end up selling my Star Trek 6 jacket because some guy who was a friend of a friend type of a thing was such a Trek nut. I mean, he offered me $5,000 for it. I'm going, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Well, if you ever decide to get rid of those thermal socks, you know where to go.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah, in fact, Chris and I would probably split the socks. So I was what's your high bid, Chris? And I'll match it.
Sean, you can buy the socks, and you can just give me one.
There you go.
$300.
And the funny thing is that I never set a price. You guys just kept quoting it up. So
Yeah, exactly. You're really good at this. You must have watched Pawn Stars or something.
I just am a con man at heart, that's basically. Really, when you think about it, half of your talent has to be conning producers into hiring you. You have a great body of work, but producers are I've never heard of your stuff. Okay. My favorite weird producer story was I was actually one of the last productions I'd ever talked to about anybody before I kind of did the jump to digital, and it was one of these things where this guy calls me on a Thursday. Okay, it's about 3:00 in the afternoon, 4:00 in the afternoon. I still have my shop. We just sort of slimmed down from Star Trek, so we still had about 4 or 5 people working on a couple of other little projects. And this guy calls and he's like, hey, we got this project. We saw your Unnameable. It's amazing. This is kind of a Cthulhu-esque kind of movie. It's a Lovecraftian film. And we're like, ooh, goody, I love those. And he starts describing the creatures and the stuff, and I'm thinking, ooh, we're going to have to do some stop motion on this, because CG really wasn't the thing yet. And there's tentacles, and there's fish people, and there's all this stuff. And I'm like, wow, this is amazing. I said, okay, why don't you send me the script? I'll read it over the weekend, and I'll call you on Monday with kind of a rough breakdown, what I think it's going to cost. What do you mean? I said, no, it's just we were just, I could do it faster, but I don't think I could give you anything before Monday anyway. I'm sure your offices are open on the weekend. Like, what do you mean? I was like, well, I have to give you a breakdown. You can't just write a blank check if you don't know what I'm thinking it's going to cost. He's like, no. We start shooting on Monday.
What the?
And I'm like, really? Really? I said, are you nuts? I said, you've got 6 months of work here, of pre-production work. You don't just have this stuff.
What movie was this for?
It was never made. It was an H.P. Lovecraft film. I think it was Mountains of Madness. I don't know. I never got the name of the movie. They just described it as this Lovecraftian movie with, they said, well, the title's in flux, and it's like, I'm not surprised, since most of the Lovecraft stories usually have a stupid name. It's like, you've never worked on a film before, have you? Just wow.
Yeah, apparently. I mean, I never have, and even I can tell this guy's a dumbass.
Well, you didn't come at it. See, the trouble was is that in the 80s and the 90s, a lot of the producers who were being hired right out of school with their MBA.
Okay.
Masters of Bachelor of accounting. They were accountants or lawyers or had never worked on films. They were only working on a film as they were doing it as a numbers thing. And I guess what had happened was when he got the script, it sat on his desk for like 6 months before he started actually doing anything with it. Thinking he'd just go out and buy the stuff like the week before they started shooting.
Yeah. Like just props for his movie just exist already.
Yeah, I said, okay, so if you go to Warner Brothers, I think they've got a rubber octopus there.
Yeah.
That they built for the Johnny Depp, Tim Burton film about what's his face who did all those horrible bad movies back in the 50s.
Ed Wood.
Ed Wood, yeah. And another story with a producer was a friend of a friend. She was a production manager turned that I've worked with many times. She really knows her stuff, smart. And she says, well, we've got this executive producer we're working with. He's a little brass, a little hard to kind of deal with. She says, but just talk to him. She said, this stuff's right up your alley. I was like, okay, cool. So I get the phone. She gives me the number. I call and get through his office. And this guy's like, yeah, we're only going to hire Academy Award-winning makeup, artists on this film. I'm like, it's like this thick Bronx accent, New York mob, basically, is what he sounded like. And so I'm like, okay, well, I don't have an Oscar quite yet. He said, well, I only want to work with Oscar winners. And so I said, well, do me a favor then. Show me your Oscar. He's like, what do you mean? I said, well, if you only want to work with Oscar winners, that means you're an Oscar winner yourself. I mean, that's kind of how the club works. I'm giving him shit because he doesn't know. And so I said, I've got a number for you. I'll give you the number of this guy. He's got a lot of Oscars. So I gave him Rick Baker's number. And then I hung up with him, and I called Rick up. I said, Rick, you're going to get a call from a guy. I said, out the gate, charge him like $20 million. And if he freaks on it, to say, that's what an Oscar-winning makeup artist charges. So Rick does that, and he calls me back about 2 hours later. He's like, that was fun.
So you conned yourself into getting that job. That's cool.
No, actually, nobody got the job because this guy was such an idiot. He never made the movie. So,
oh, okay. That makes sense.
Yeah. No, trust me. It's like my average was this. I would get a script. Every 10 scripts I would get, I'd get an interview from. For every 10 interviews I got, I would get a job.
Oh, wow.
So that's what you're doing 90% of your time is you're doing breakdowns, you're doing script reading, I had this great ritual. I lived next to an English pub, and so I'd go there about 3 o'clock in the afternoon and just at the beginning of tea service, and I'd sit there until about 6:30 drinking tea and eating little tea sandwiches and tea cakes and things like that, and just reading my scripts and doing my breakdowns and taking one of the big booths and just having it all laid out. They said, oh, you're putting on a new movie, I see. So I said, yeah. no,
Well, we are happy that you actually got to be on Critters and Critters 2, because I feel that those effects made those movies even better.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I mean, at the time when I got Critters, I was really pissed off at them because I bid on Critters. You know, and put the bid on Critters, and they took this other guy because his bid came in $5,000 less than mine. And I'm like, really? And then they ended up reshooting it, and I charged them pretty much about half of what my original bid was. The whole film. For those 3 gags. So, yeah. And then they called me back for Critters 2, and they just said, yeah, they were. And I was like, strange, because I thought they wanted me to do Zante exactly the same way, and Mick was like, oh, no. You just come up with something. So I did a couple of drawings, and I just sent them over to him, and he's like, oh, that's fabulous, you know. So.
Oh, so did Mick not like the design of the first Zante?
No, he hated it.
Oh.
He said he looked like a blue thumb. So, yeah. Yeah, and so we kind of went with, and the funny thing was is that actually Zante is played by Mick's wife.
Yeah, Cynthia Garris.
Cynthia.
Oh, yes, we did know that, actually.
Okay, well, here's something you may not have known. Cynthia suffers from claustrophobia.
Oh.
Years.
So they had to put her in that makeup with that rubber mask stuff all over her while she suffers from that?
Terrible.
The only thing exposed on her entire person was her lips.
Wow.
And we're at her side because she was, you know, she had to keep her arms at her side inside the body because we had the big puppet arms outside the body. And so, and I didn't know this at the time. We did her body cast, we did her head cast, and you know, we're sculpting all these parts on these castings, and then we get her in, and we bring her in for a makeup test, and we put the head on her, and we put the makeup on her, and she lasts about 2 minutes.
Really?
And just starts freaking out. Like, I can't do this. Oh my God! Ah! You know, and it's like she wanted to be in the movie in the worst way, and Mick made sure it was. So, yeah.
Now, did you know the Hungry Heifer?
Hey, you're breaking up really badly again.
Did you know that she wrote the Hungry Heifer theme song as well?
Yes, she sings it. That's her voice.
Yeah, we just found that out kind of early, I believe.
Yeah.
So we were kind of...
Yeah, that was kind of Mick making up for the Zante, because we got her in the makeup, and we did basically, I think, 4 takes, you know, four shots of her in the makeup, and then she just literally was I mean, you know, we had to cut her out of the back because she was glued in, you know, the whole thing wrapped around her back and, you know, to hold her in place. And
oh yeah,
and the body was like supported on a platform, and then. But the thing was, the first time we put the head on her, it was a big polyfoam head. Then we had a face piece and a neck piece that were like blenders, and then also continued down onto the body, which was also a big polyfoam and latex piece. And I didn't realize that, you know, I mean, and she's like, I can't hold my head up. It was so heavy. So we had to go in and carve it open and hollow it out to like the bare. I mean, it went from weighing about 7 pounds to about, I think, like half a pound by the time we were all done. So, but, yeah, no, it was poor thing. She was so sweet, and she was just. I think the day we shot, she'd taken like a Xanax or something, or you know, something to just calm her down.
Existed back then? No, I'm sorry.
It was something that was like, you know, an anti-anxiety drug.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Whatever that was back then.
Darvocet? I don't know.
Yeah, the only drugs I was involved with were the ones that were at craft service. So, not on that show, other shows. So, yeah.
Well, that's awesome. But it's an honor to talk to you, man. I mean, every day I look over. I have a critter that's cast from the movie Molded Part 2. I got the poster up there and everything. So it's really an honor every time we get to talk to people that had a hand in these films, because Chris and I have literally been obsessed our entire existence. So it really is something to hear these stories.
It's people like you who make us like enjoy doing them too, because it's like, you know, it's just for the fans, really. I mean, like, I've worked on so many movies that I thought, this is it. This is the one that's going to take it. And it's like, then you get on set and it's like, yeah, no.
Yeah.
And then I worked on other scripts where it's like, oh, you've got to be kidding me. I mean, I worked on, Critters 2 was kind of that way. When I first read the script, I was like, really? Oh.
Well, I'm sure. It does not seem like a movie that would translate the script that interestingly.
Yeah, the directions were like the large alien attacks.
Yeah. It's like a child wrote it.
You know, it's like, okay.
No wonder children were relating to it so hard.
You know, and then they put then it's like the line is, they've, the severed head of the large alien is now being put into a freezer.
Oh, you said there were some Easter eggs in that freezer, by the way. Did you go into more detail on that by chance?
Just look at it carefully.
Well, Chris is more of a nerd than me on that aspect. Have you ever noticed some, Chris?
I don't think I've really looked at it too much with the alien head.
Way in the back, behind everything, just kind of a hint is the Ridley Scott alien from.
Oh, okay. Now I feel like I have noticed that. Okay.
I thought you were going to say something like you were laying back there with all of them covered up and you could see you or something.
Actually, we were talking about doing that, having all of the makeup guys do like a really weird makeup on ourselves, and then make ourselves look for, because we were using this like spray freezer, this like the shit you spray on your windows at Christmas time for frost. Yeah, we were spraying that all over these so they looked like they had frost on them. And we were thinking, that'd be fun. We just put our old heads, everybody puts their own head in there and does the makeup on themselves. But the day of the shoot was like, it was pandemonium, and they wanted to shoot that whole sequence in one day.
Okay.
It was like, yeah, no. We had about 40 heads in there as it was, so that was pretty good.
Oh, that's amazing, though, man. It's something. Do you have like a favorite scene in that movie?
The skeleton is one of my favorites because it was such a wow, okay, it just sort of happened. It was happenstance.
I love that scene even more now that you told me the accidental shaking of it. That was great.
Yeah, and then
it's a real near and dear scene to me.
Then when it goes from the bounty hunter, the playmate to Eddie. The boobs going.
Oh yeah, yes, yeah. What was that exactly? Just some deflating boobs?
It was honest to God, it was two balloons.
It wasn't.
We took Eddie's chest cast, and we did the two balloons on a fiber box, and it's just really, really, really stretchy foam latex, and so we inflated them, got them looking really good, shadow just right.
Got him looking really good, he says.
And then, honest to God, it was like just opening the valve. And
oh, that's hilarious. We have a guy in the group who is obsessed with that scene. It was kind of like his first boner. How does that make you feel?
Hey, she was pretty hot. I mean, she was a hottie.
Well, absolutely. She passed away. I'm sure you've heard.
I did not know. Really?
You didn't? Hey, it was soon thereafter, wasn't it, Chris?
Yeah, I think it was a year or two after Critters 2. She died in a car accident.
Yep.
Oh, because I just was looking at something on her. Hang on, while I was talking to you guys, I kept looking up stuff like Critters stuff just to say because it's like, when you get to be my age, you forget half the shit you did.
You're remembering more than most, dude.
Yeah.
But yeah, she did. She passed away, unfortunately.
Oh.
We're sorry to end this on such like a downer.
I didn't know she passed away. It's like, wow. Okay, yeah, there she is. Because I looked her up on. Yeah, I just looked her up on IMDb, thinking, God, what else did she do in Critters? And she did a whole. She did actually. If she died in '91, which is 88. 89, 99, so 3 or 4 years.
Sounds about right, yeah.
Yeah, because she was in the Scream Queen Hot Tub Party in 91. But she was, looking at Cheap Trick Video, Angel 3, Phoenix, The Warrior, Not of This Earth, and then Critters 2. And then before that, she was in like one other movie before that called Fatal Pulse. So, I didn't know that. So I have to read up on that. So.
Yeah, I've always wanted to get the magazine that she's in.
Oh, the Playboy thing?
Yeah. I think she wasn't actually in a Playboy issue. I think it was they took her.
They did a photo shoot.
Yeah.
They actually got a Playboy photographer to do the shoot through. It was kind of cool.
Yeah.
She was actually Playboy sexy lingerie. So, yeah, young at 30. She died in '93.
So the magazine in the movie is actually for the movie.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. It was made.
Oh.
That picture was made for the movie. We had to make sure she was in the right place so her belly was on the staple.
That's right. Yes.
Because she pops the staple off like, what the hell is this, and tosses it over her shoulder. It was funny because we made one staple thinking, oh, we're going to do it once. Yeah, no, we did it like 6 times, and we had to keep freaking finding it in that goddamn field.
Oh, that's awesome.
Eventually, we put a blanket down behind her, so when she tosses it over her shoulder, it just landed on the blanket.
You find the staple. That's funny. Yeah, I gotta. Obviously, we care a lot about the props. We keep bringing it up, but I gotta wonder where the hell those staples are.
Oh, the staple was nothing. It was literally done. I mean, it was just a piece of. I think it was a piece of brass, stripped brass, that we had chromed, and then bent into the shape of the staple.
That's hilarious.
Then I just glued it on her, right? Two dots of glue so that we could, there wasn't anything. Because they were originally talking about, well, we didn't have it so it comes out of her like when you pull a staple out of a magazine. And I'm like, Mick, you want to spend all that money and all that time on a throwaway gag? He's like, yeah, okay, never mind.
Yeah.
I got to say, working with a director who's very enthusiastic and very out there with ideas, he's also very rational and very realistic. And
well, that's cool. That's cool.
You could say that we can do this, but here's what's going to happen. X, Y, Z, And then he's like, he could either say, yeah, let's do it, or, oh, yeah, okay, I can see it. Let's do it simpler. So by the time we got to the second week of shooting, we were already behind schedule by about 4 days, and it just kept getting longer because it was just, we had the snow, like I said, clearing snow was the big thing. The first 2 weeks we shot, it snowed a couple of times, and it was like, fuck. You shoot a scene and then go to shoot coverage and like, oh gee, there's snow there.
I have a random one. The cans of beer that say beer on them. And Chris is gonna laugh because I bring this up too much. But did you have anything to do with those? Do you have any stories about those? Because
the what? I'm sorry.
In Mr. Quigley's antique shop, he trades the one kid some beers. And they're literally a white can that just say beer on it really big.
Actually, those were bought by the prop master at I think it was Ralph's. Remember Plane Wrap?
No.
Okay. You're probably too young for that then. In the 80s, there was this whole line of products called Plane Wrap. And it was a white can, or it was a white container with a blue stripe and the name of whatever was in it. That was it. No advertising.
Interesting.
But the thing was that it was done as an FU to. It was almost done as an art piece, but it was a real company producing real food that was not bad. It wasn't great. I mean, but the thing was, a friend of mine, we went to a party and he drank an entire bottle of Plain Wrap vodka. The blue. and it proceeded to get sick as a dog, and it's like, I can usually drink this much vodka without a problem. I don't know what's going on. I said, dude, you drank Plain Wrap vodka. Said, you're probably drinking half turpentine,
Yeah. This is amazing. Chris, have you ever heard about this shit?
No, but it makes sense because I think in the movie there's a line where he takes the beer and he says it's probably just this Plain Wrap piss anyways.
Yeah,
so that makes sense now.
Does say, wow.
But look, also there's another movie called Repo Man with Charlie Sheen, I think, is in it, or
Emilio Estevez.
Emilio Estevez, the brother. And there's a scene where they're in like an aisle and it's all this Plain Wrap stuff, and that's just it. It was everything, paper towels. I mean, and it was just the white with the word paper towel on it. And, you know, and they put it on one whole aisle. So it was just kind of this weird, surreal, you know, very, they live moment. You know, when they put the glasses on, everything's got like no advertising. It's just big words, you know, that kind of a thing. So, but that was actually a thing at the time. It was plain wrapped beer, and it was a joke. It was always a joke because it was the worst. It made Coors taste good, you know. So.
Well, Chris, I think we're gonna wrap it up here. I guess.
Cool. Okay. Well,
we appreciate you so much for coming on here.
Yeah, absolutely. It really means a lot to us.
You can cut this down to about 30 minutes and it'd be good. So.
Nah, we just leave all the fat, man. It's a Critters podcast. Jeez. Yeah.
But yeah, we strongly appreciate this very, very much. And maybe if we ever do another podcast in the future on either Nightmare 5 or Unnameable or something like that, we'll try to get you back on.
Well, come on, if you want to come on out to California for the Horror Made Here thing, because you probably will enjoy the hell out of that.
Oh, I'm sure I would. That sounds amazing.
But here's the deal: all the props that are being used are from the actual movies.
Oh man, that makes me want to go 10 times more.
You know, last year we had one of the Annabelle dolls, the real ones, and you know it was like, wow. So, and then we had the props. You know, a lot of the props from the movies in the scenes in this walkthrough thing you're walking through, and so it's intense. It's cool. It's fun. We have, you know, we're not doing Nightmare on Elm Street this year, but we're doing Camp Silver Lake, which is the Jason. Is it Silver Lake?
Camp Crystal Lake.
Crystal Lake. Okay, it was something lake. Yeah. Anyway, but we're doing Camp Crystal Lake, which is going to be Freddy versus Jason. So.
Oh, cool.
So we got some Freddy stuff going there, and then there'll be some Jason stuff. And we got one scene where you're in there, and Jason is the protagonist or the antagonist, I should say. And then all of a sudden, we're doing this big lighting shift where it goes from like dark, lighting like candle, like real reality kind of lighting, to all of a sudden these weird blue shadows sweep across the wall and all this stuff. And so I'm doing all the projections in there to change the lighting. So there's actually no lighting in it. It's about 4 projectors. So it'll be the projectors are the lights, so that way we can actually animate stuff and transform things and do stuff, off cue. So.
Yeah, we will definitely hit you up if we are able to go to that. It'll be a lot of fun.
Oh, that would be fantastic.
Yeah. Okay, guys. Well, have fun, and see you on the other side.
Yeah, all right, I'll let you know.
I really do appreciate it.
I'll let you know, Chris, whenever we're able to get the podcast edited together and up, so you can listen to it if you want to, or share it around or something.
Cool. Okay. I'll send it to my friends, and they can go, really, like, we haven't heard that shit 100 times.
No, thanks a lot, man. Thanks for, it's a big part of our childhood and life, so it's a pleasure.
Well, sure enough. Enjoy.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Take care, man.
Good night.
All right, Chris, I actually have to cut it short here. I'm about to go do something here.
All righty. Sean, I guess.
Another Chris? Or
Oh, shit. Yeah, I'm talking. I figured you hung up, Chris.
I was trying to push the wrong button, and then you said, "Oh, Chris, hang on a second. I got to do something." Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I'll come back. So.
No.
Okay. Well, I'll hang up then. Okay. Take care, guys.
All right. Take care, man.
Take care, buddy. Thanks a lot.
All right, Sean.
Yeah, sorry, man. Yeah, I actually got to cut it short here. I got to get running here.
All right. Sorry to take up so much time.
No, it's absolutely fine, man. That was cool.
I'm going to hop off here, too, just to make sure that it recorded, because I'm so scared that it didn't.
Oh. All right, I have to go, man. Sorry.
All right. Bye.
Take care, man.
Good night.